everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tia Nicole. If you're new here, please subscribe, comment, like, share, turn on your bell notifications for more videos that I post in the future. Today is the second part to a two-part series. I've decided it's going to be a two-part series because 3 parts is probably a little too extensive. So, two-part series on my pregnancy and what happened to me during weeks 1 through 40. If you're interested, please continue to watch and we'll get right into it. Okay, so in my last video, I ended off on week 14, and now I'm gonna go from week 14 to 40. Hopefully, I can squeeze all of this information into this one video and I won't have to make a part 3. But from weeks 14 to, I wanna say, about 18, I had severe migraines to the point that I had missed work literally every Monday for that entire month. And it was something about Sunday into Monday. I could never get up from the weekend and go to work. Like, I needed that extra day from working all week long. Now, I worked 40 hours a week while being pregnant the entire time. And if I called out, there was clearly a reason as to why I wasn't there. Like, I'm usually at work every day on time, but from being pregnant and having all the pregnancy symptoms, being super tired, it takes a toll on your body. And then on top of being in the car for an hour and sometimes 20 to 30 minutes each way, sometimes even more than that, depending on how traffic was towards the end of the night. I literally missed every Monday for a month straight, and it got to the point where my boss was pretty much like, oh, it's becoming a pattern, you're missing all our work. Then they try to put this rule out like, oh, if you miss more than, I want to say 3 days within a month, then it's becomes an issue. But at this point, I had a reason to be out of work, so it wasn't like I was just calling out to call out. Like, I was pregnant and I was tired and my body hurt because I was literally going hard from the time that I woke up to the time that I went to sleep, trying to entertain all the babies, keep them in good spirits until their parents came, making sure that they had everything, being a good co-worker to my co-workers while being there, and all 3 of us are pregnant. If you missed that piece of information, you might want to go back and watch the first video, because like I said in that video, all 3 of us were pregnant at the same time. It was not planned because that's super cheesy. It just so happened to work out that way. So from week 14 to 18, I had severe migraines. I really couldn't see because that's how bad it was. Literally sitting up, I was super dizzy, so I felt like laying down would be best. But it felt like the room was spinning either way. And eventually I would fall asleep and sleep for as long as I could, and then feel good enough to get up, take a shower, eat, and then go back to sleep. Literally, that's all I did for every Monday during that month. Week 21 started the leg cramps. When I say the leg cramps, it's like a Charlie horse times 2. And Charlie horse, if you've ever had any Charlie horse in your legs or anywhere in your body, you know it's not fun. And it's very painful to the point where you can't even, you're in so much pain, you don't even think about the things that you could do to prevent the pain from, prolonging. But I had really bad leg cramps from week 21 to 23. During week 23 to 29, I still had the abdominal pain on each side of my stomach. And then week 29, that's when my hands and my feet started to swell, to the point where my shoes didn't fit. So, okay, like I said, I work at a daycare, and in the daycare you have to have closed-toed shoes because if anything was to happen, like running after a child on the playground if they got hurt, or like trying to do something quick, you don't want to have open-toed shoes, and then you'll end up hurting yourself in the process of trying to prevent a child from hurting themselves, or trying to get there in time to help them out and comfort them. So luckily for me, I work in an infant room, so in there's no shoes allowed. So I was able to walk in with flip-flops, and then once I get to my room, put my socks on, and then, you know, go throughout the day, still on my feet, but go throughout the day in socks, and then once I leave, put my flip-flops back on and I'm out. But then there comes a time where they try to complain about people coming in flip-flops and blah 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 blah, and I felt like it was geared towards me because I felt like I was the only one. I don't know, maybe I was just being real sensitive, but I felt like it was geared towards me because I was pretty much the only one coming in with flip-flops on, and then in my room I would just put my socks on. But they were like, oh well, you could get Crocs. Who's gonna pay for me to get Crocs? Because I'm not gonna spend money on closed-toe shoes that I know for a fact I will never ever in my life wear again. So why not do what I'm doing? I literally had the same pair of flip-flops from the time of week 21 to 40 in a day. So yeah, so during week 29 is when I had my glucose test, and they had me test twice because something happened with the first test, and then the second one came back fine. But from the first test, they had me take iron pills because my iron was too low. I guess they tested that from when they took my blood. Also, they seen that in the results that were given. Why am I so itchy in each of these videos? I don't get it. But yeah, so they gave me iron pills from the glucose test to help with my iron. Then I retested, and then everything was fine, and then that was that. So from week 31, that's when I got really annoyed because my legs would itch to the point where I couldn't handle it, and it will only itch when I'm standing up in one spot for more than a minute and a half. And like I would scratch it with my other leg and then switch back and forth between legs, like scratching it with my foot. Or I would try to go sit down, and it would take a minute for it to stop itching. And I felt like that obviously had to do with the fact that my feet were swollen. So like a lot of pressure, and then like gaining extra weight was too much on my legs. So that was my week 31. And then on top of that, I would have hot flashes from doing the simplest things in the world. I could go and open the blind and I'd be, I'm hot. Or I could just bend down and get something. Oh my God, I need to sit down. I'm hot. Or I'll just go, you know, open the door for the dog to go out and use the bathroom. I need to have a seat. I'm hot. Like literally pouring sweat, like to the point where it was pretty annoying. I'm like, I'm not even doing anything to be tired. At this point, I wasn't really that big, but you could tell that I was pregnant, but I wasn't big. So I'm like, it wasn't registering to me that I'm carrying another human being. My body temperature is something totally different because in the inside, I had to stay warm to protect my child. Didn't think about that until today. But yeah, so that was my week 31. Week 32 to 40. I constantly had leg cramps. I had pain in both legs. And then all of a sudden I contracted pain in my right hand, which I still have till this day. Like if I sleep or leave my hand for too long, and in this part of my hand there's pain. And I want to blame the doctors because there was this one doctor who was doing my IV and she couldn't find it. And I feel like there's a pinched nerve somewhere in there that she picked and got good. Because literally, if I keep my hand closed or if I'm asleep on it or like, however, if it's not moving for a long period of time, if I wake up, I have to like position my hand back into its spot and then let it sit for a while, and then I can move my hand around and it's like perfectly fine. It doesn't hurt anymore. But I literally wake up like and then like, you know, going about what I have to do, and then I'll do the little, you know, hand massage and then a little exercise here and there, put it back in place, and then I'm fine. But I feel like it was from the doctor messing up on my IV. So around week 39, I put myself on bed rest because I'm like, I can't do this. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm driving a long distance both ways. Being on my feet for 9 hours a day was a lot. And then on top of that, literally not resting was really taking a toll on my body. So I put myself on bed rest at 39 weeks. I emailed my boss and said, yeah, I don't think I'm coming back even after having the baby because it's a long distance. I really don't see myself, you know, making that drive every single day with the baby in the back seat, because if I did stay, I would have to bring him with me because it would be a full-time thing. I eventually went back because I needed the money, and that's just real. But at that time, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'll be coming back because it's just too much right now. And right now in my headspace, I just don't see it happening. So I want to say week 39. My week started on Wednesdays. Yeah, my weeks started on Wednesdays. So 39 weeks in, I want to say 2 days, I emailed my boss and I told her I'm not coming back. Thank you for everything that everybody gave me for the baby. Thank you for the kind words, the cards, nice gestures, blah, blah. Eventually accommodated me to leave earlier than 6 o'clock after being there from 9 o'clock in the morning, blah, 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 blah. I don't see myself coming back. So that following, I want to say Saturday or Sunday, one of my close friends was telling me, oh, you should start walking around the racetrack or lightly jogging, but for some reason I walked. And then I was like, oh, well, that's what you meant after the fact. But either way, it worked. She was like, lightly jog around the racetrack a couple of times every morning, just to get the baby moving, you know, to get the baby down and pushing itself out to eventually be delivered sooner rather than later. So I'm like hearing that, it was like music to my ears, because my husband was telling me, oh, you're gonna go past 40 weeks. You're probably gonna go to like 42 weeks. And then I'm like, I don't want to have this baby in September. Like, that was my ultimate goal. I need to have this baby in August, because August 22nd was my due date. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna do everything that I need to do to get this baby out. Like, if we need to go to the extreme, we're gonna go to the extreme to have my baby close to my due date or on my due date. So he's like, okay, well, Monday morning we can go to the racetrack and we'll jog up until you start having contractions. So I'm like, okay, cool, sounds good to me. Like, this is great. So that Monday morning, we went to the racetrack. We walked around, I want to say twice. And then the following day, which was that Tuesday, my legs were balloons. They didn't even look like they were my legs. And I'm like, looking back at the pictures now, I'm like, yeah, this just looks crazy. Like, how are these my legs? Like, they didn't even look like my legs. They didn't even look like my hands, but more so not my legs and my feet. They look like somebody else and put their feet and their legs on my body and was like, here you go, you can have these for a couple weeks and then you'll go back to your normal feet after you have the baby. That Saturday when I got the information, Saturday or Sunday when I got the information about walking around the racetrack constantly, I was looking online and I was reading about like different things you could do naturally to induce labor, because at this point I'm literally 4 days before my due date. So I looked and it was like, oh, you can drink raspberry tea, hot or cold, consistently, water, do your squats, pretty much keep active, walk up and down the stairs, walk or lightly jog. I'm like, okay, I'm doing pretty much everything but the raspberry tea. So I went to Walmart, got some raspberry tea, and then I drank it consistently, like I said. A lot of people were saying like, oh, it doesn't work because a lot of things just don't work for certain people. But I'm like, I'm gonna try any and everything because I refuse to have my baby in September. So that Wednesday, after drinking raspberry tea, going around the track 4 times in total between 2 days, and then Wednesday the 20, I'm lying, now that I think about it, it was actually Tuesday when my contractions started. because Wednesday, the 22nd, I was admitted into the hospital, and that's when everything started. But yeah, Tuesday, I put it here on the side of all my contractions. When I tell you, it was something, it was like constantly. And I kept calling the doctor like, oh, I think I need to come in. He was like, no, you have to wait until they're at least 5 minutes apart within the same hour. And they last for, I can't remember the specifics of what it was, but they had to be at least 5 minutes apart from each other. So Tuesday night, my husband comes home, and it was like light cramping to the point where like if it happened, then I'm like, okay, I'll just move around my hips in a circle, and then I'll do like squats to get it going. And that helped every time the contraction came, and then I was able to sit down. And then once another contraction came, I jumped up, walked from the kitchen all the way to the living room, and then back to the kitchen, did squats, did my little hip swivels, and then that was that. And then around 12 a.m. I call, and I'm like, hey, my contractions seem like they're getting a little intense. And the doctor again says, just try to wait it out because you don't want to come and then have to be sent back home. And I'm like, okay. So literally from 12 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm having contractions. I'm in the bed. Once a contraction came, I'm like, okay, I can't do this. I gotta get up. I have to poop. Like, it felt like I needed to poop, but I literally just peed a little tinkle, and that was it. But it felt like I needed to use the bathroom, but I couldn't at all. Mind you, this was during the summer. It's super hot. I'm super thirsty. Like, trying not to be dehydrated, trying to stay, like, afloat. Because clearly your mind is, like, somewhere else when it's hot and you just can't handle it. So, I'm going to the bathroom constantly. Like, when I say constantly, it was, like, pretty much me flushing every 10 minutes. So I, like I said, kept track of my contractions. And then around 7:45, I remember like the time specifically because my phone was literally in my hand. Every time something happened, I jotted it down, or like I would just check the time to see, like, you know, whatever. So 7:45 Wednesday morning, August 22nd, I called the doctor and I said, my pains are getting really severe. Like, I can't take it anymore. I think I need to be seen. Just for my own safety, for my own sanity, I think that I need to have at least a doctor check me. He was like, okay, if you really think like you can't handle it being home, come. Luckily, my hospital is not even 5 minutes away driving. Like, you come out my house, you go down the street, around the corner, boom, you're there. Like I said, on that Tuesday, which was August 21st, that's when my contractions started picking up. Wednesday, August 22nd, was my actual due date. And I went into the hospital in full-blown labor. In my next video, which will be my labor and delivery video, I will tell you about my experience in triage. I'll tell you about my experience getting an epidural. I'll tell you about my experience delivering, what happened while we're waiting, and then how everything went following until the time that we came home. All right. This was a long one. I feel like if you sat through that, you can sit through the next couple ones. And if you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, turn on your bell notifications, and join me on this journey. I hope you like this video. I'll see you on my next one. Bye.